Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Josh Guerrero here, and welcome to the All Around Adventure Podcast. Whether you're joining me for the first time or if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, I certainly do want to welcome you here. And as always, I want to thank you for being here today. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. There's also a lot out there on the internet these days that's trying to get your attention and distract you. But it just means so much to me that you've chosen to download and listen to this podcast. Now, if you are in fact new to this podcast and you're not entirely sure what we're all about here, this is the show where you hear amazing tales from afar and get the all-important life lessons that go along with them. And those would be stories from myself, as well as the fantastic guests that I welcome on this podcast. However, for this episode, you got me today. This is the travel reflection show that I do, and it's exactly how it sounds, where I share some of my travel stories, reflect on them a little bit, and try to extrapolate some life lessons and wisdom to share with you all that I've learned from some of those experiences. And so that's what we're going to be getting into today. Now, you've noticed that the title of this episode is The Bathtub Model of Stress. Now, I heard this term when I was listening to the book On Combat by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, and he was talking about this model, well, mostly in the terms of law enforcement and military personnel due to the high stresses that they face in their jobs. However, I felt that this model is very applicable to pretty much anyone, especially like right now with let's face it, the crazy shitstorm that we've been dealing with this year, 2020. And since this is the last Travel Reflections episode for this year, and we're getting ready to go into 2020, I thought I'd want to talk about this a little bit, kind of go over a couple of strategies that I've been sort of implementing into my life lately to deal with a lot of the stressors I face. Because, let's face it, stress gets to me too sometimes. I know a lot of people kind of see me. I'm this mostly happy-go-lucky person, but lately I've been struggling with some stuff. I've been having to slay some giants, metaphorically speaking, and but I've been finding a way to do it. I've been looking at this model, thinking about ways to reduce stress in my life, and it's actually been kind of helping. So today I want to go over 5 tips that I've kind of been implementing myself lately in order to reduce stress in my life, and I kind of want to share them with you all in hopes that you can implement them into your lives as well. So kind of going along with just what's been happening to me lately with the traveling that I've been doing. Right now I'm in Vicksburg, Mississippi, doing some field work for my job. I'm an archaeologist by day, and lately there's just been quite the compound of things that have been kind of going on with me in my life. Of course, it's like I've been, away from my home, my apartment in Tallahassee, where I live. And, I know I have like a laundry list of things that I need to do there or that I want to do there in the city where I live, but not really able to do them right now or take care of them because I'm here. And, of course, the holidays are coming up, thinking about travel, and, where I kind of want to and how I need to get home and travel and, buying gifts and everything like that. I want to go travel to Europe sometime next month. But then, of course, there's a lot more restrictions that are happening right now that are disrupting my plans. And, it's been kind of difficult to take care of that because, it's not like the olden days where you can pretty much just go wherever you want. Now there's all these like restrictions in place. And then, of course, just long hours working my job. It's been really cold and wet and miserable here in Mississippi lately. And, I work outside for like 11 hours straight. And when it's only like 40 degrees and the humidity's like around in the 70s percentile range, it gets pretty fucking cold. And a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about if you live in those types of environments. So it's just a big, compounding of things that's been, kind of getting to me lately. But, when I was looking at this model, the bathtub model of stress, because, I've been listening to the audiobook of the book On Combat, what the author talks about, Dave Grossman, he says that stress, and he kind of looks at it in the realm of like a bathtub, hence the bathtub model of stress. And on the bathtub, you got your small drain hole, where the water, of course, drains out from the tub. But it can only drain so much water at a time. And if you have the water running like a lot, like very heavily, that bathtub's going to fill up faster than the drain can drain the water out. And if you keep filling it up over and over again, to the point where like the drain just can't keep up with with the rate that the tub's being filled. The water is going to overflow from this tub. It's going to get on your floor. It's going to rot away the wood. It could seep down into the foundations of your house and just totally fuck everything up, to the point where just trying to repair it all is going to be very, very difficult, challenging, and annoying, and so on and so forth. So the idea is simply just to not fill the tub any faster than it can drain. And it's the same thing when we allow stressors in our life. If we just let negativity, all kinds of stressful things just keep coming in over and over again, eventually it's just going to become so overwhelming that, it's just going to, cripple us. And then, we see this drives into things like depression and so on and so forth. So the idea is to try to limit the amount of stress that we take in our lives, and which can certainly be easier said than done at times. But I want to go over 5 strategies with you all today. I usually like it to keep it within 5 to shorter when it comes to tips, allow you all to remember them just a little bit better. So, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. There's probably plenty other stressors, or ways to eliminate stress rather that, I might not talk about and that you may think of. And if you think of something that I don't mention today, drop it down in the comments below, or put it on my social media. I'm at Instagram at All Around Adventure. Just head over there and let me know what you might be doing in your life to keep stress low and keep stressors away. So let's go ahead and break some of these down. So we'll start with number 1, and I'm going to be looking over this way a little bit because I got my list right here. But the first one is intense physical training. Now, I say this, and some of you may have heard me talk in previous episodes, just how important, being physically fit actually is. And of course, I'm not talking like that you have to be, a supermodel, or you got to be walking on stage as a bodybuilder or anything like that. Lord knows I'm not really going to be doing that anytime soon. I doubt I'll have any supplement companies hitting me up to try to sponsor me, though I would certainly welcome that though. But I'm just saying, just being overall just healthy, physically fit. I believe in the mantra that with a strong body comes a strong mind, and intense physical training kind of sort of exposing yourself to that stress, because if you're training very intensely, you're breathing heavy, you're sweating, and it's just, a very grueling and challenging experience. That helps with what's called stress inoculation. You kind of experience that stress in more or less small doses. May not seem like it when you're working out, but it is very much, a small dose, and you kind of fortify yourself to better manage stressors as they come in. And going back to the analogy of the tub, you're more or less just making your bathtub bigger. It'll take a little bit longer for the stressors to, seep over the tops and then start trickling down and, jacking up your floor, with the analogy, of course. So by doing intense physical exercise, building a strong, healthy body, your bathtub gets bigger and you can manage stressors a hell of a lot better. So tip number 1, intense physical training. All right. Number 2 is to limit media and social media viewing. And, let's kind of face it, in this day and age right now, especially in 2020, there's really not much positivity at all to be seen in the realms of media and social media. And just dragging out and just kind of going along with media first and foremost. The media, the way it works is that they are mining your attention and they are selling your attention to their advertisers. That's how they make their money. And so therefore, they're going to do whatever it is to basically draw your attention, keep you hooked. And so that way, the more, views that they have, the more money they get. And a lot of times the way they do this is by showing just stories they know are going to rile you up, make you angry, and then keep you watching. And then suddenly you go and you look on the rest of the world like it's something completely awful. And don't get me wrong, there are, a lot of awful things happening in the world right now, but there's also a lot of really good things. And I'm seeing a lot of great things happening in the world. But unfortunately, those good things, they're just, I guess, not quite as loud as, the bad things, at least in the eyes of some of these, media types. And so therefore I'd say limit your media usage, because they're not really in the realm of sharing positive things with you. They're trying to keep your attention, and they're basically doing that by sharing negativity. And it's also the same thing on social media too, being deliberate and intentional with, who you're following on social media. And I always say that if you see a lot of negativity on social media, it's because you're following it. And this is actually kind of a hard thing for me to do, because I've actually had to, even people that I've known for most of my life, it's just they've been started posting so many negative things lately. And I'm not opposed to, being friends or, being acquainted with anyone who may have opposing viewpoints than I do. But what I certainly take issue with is how they express their viewpoints, to the point where they're spitting venom, more or less, at people who disagree with them. And as myself personally, I like having an economy of ideas. I like having really good discussions with people who disagree with me, because, sometimes I just try to go in there with an open mind. And sometimes I actually, will, hear a point that someone else will make. And, I may even think to myself, I didn't even think about it that way before. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe not at the end of the day. I may not, agree with them, but at least, we have mutual respect for each other, and we can agree to disagree, and we can still go on and be friends and still have a good, meaningful relationship. So be deliberate and intentional with not only who you follow on social media, but how much time you spend on social media. Because again, Facebook, Instagram, all these social media platforms, they set those applications up to keep you on there as long as possible. They try to set it up to keep you scrolling. The algorithm, shows you things that it thinks that you want to see to keep you on there longer. So keep that in mind and try to limit your social media usage. So that's number 2, limit media and social media usage. And number 3 that I want to talk about is learn to say no. I think there's many of us in this day and age where we want to try to we want to be liked, we want to please people, and we want to try to win the approval of others, oftentimes at the expense of ourselves, where you may have a lot going on, you may have a lot on your plate, a lot of things that you're dealing with, and then someone comes to you and, I don't know, they may ask you, these are just a couple of examples, hey, can you come help me move? Can you help me, put in drywall, or, whatever it is. And if you're pretty much already tapped out and you're exhausted, or you just need time to yourself or whatever, it is okay to say no. It's okay to say, no, sorry, I can't help you with that today. And, and you don't even have to give a reason as to why you want to do that too. So, you can if you want, but just remember, if you need time for yourself, you can go ahead and say no in that moment. Despite popular belief, it is actually okay to be selfish from time to time, because if you're not taking care of yourself first, how can you expect to show up and serve anyone later on? Kind of goes back to the whole instance where, you put your mask on, your oxygen mask on in the plane first before you help out someone else. So if you think that you need time for yourself, and if you feel like trying to say yes to something like that is going to tap you out, then say no. Say no, do what you got to do for yourself first, and then you can go and be of better service to others. So that's tip number 3, learn to say no. All right, tip number 4, sleep. Right now, we are probably in the most sleep-deprived state than I think humans have ever been. And Colonel Dave Grossman talks about this in the book On Combat as well, is that sleep deprivation in our society today is pretty much at an all-time high. And the problem when it comes to sleep deprivation, and you've certainly experienced this, I guaranteed you have, and I bring this up because I've been kind of experiencing this as well these last couple of weeks, is because my sleep has been so off, is that there is definitely a night and day difference compare to how I show up during the day after nights where I've had a very good night's sleep versus nights where I was hardly had any sleep at all, or I got very poor quality sleep. On the nights that I got a good night's sleep, I got a lot of pep in my step. I'm focused. My mood is good. And, I'm quite frankly more pleasant to be around. But compared to the days where I've hardly had any sleep or I had very poor quality sleep, I'm exhausted. I'm irritable. I can't focus. I don't want to be, working. I don't want to do anything. And so there is a very distinct difference to how you show up after a night's rest, depending on quantity and quality. I think most people would suggest aim for about 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep. And, I've done other podcasts about some sleep science tips, and I'll link those in the show notes for you to go to check them out. But, come to a certain point during the night where you say, okay, that's it. No more TV, no more laptop or computer, put the phone on silent and start winding down and get yourself to bed and enjoy some good quality sleep. Because, again, that'll work wonders. And let's face it, humans in this weren't really meant to stay awake past the sun goes down. If you think of our primordial ancestors, when the sun went down, they more or less just went to sleep, or they had fun with their partner, one or the other, because there wasn't really much else to do when their main light source was out, because they didn't have electricity, they didn't have light bulbs, So that's kind of what we need to get back to. We need to go and we need to get ourselves some more sleep. All right, so that's tip number 4. And tip number 5 is to find adventure. I'll leave it up to you to decide if you feel comfortable with traveling right now, considering the current state of things. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, traveling around the world. It could be finding adventure in your own backyard. Is there some green space or some walking trails somewhere nearby where you can go and you can get out in nature? There's something just healing and therapeutic about nature, just the fresh air, it's really hard to describe. As if we're meant to be there. At least that's what I experience. I just feel like anytime I go out into nature, I just feel like I'm meant to be there. It just has some sort of weird healing factor about it. And I always come back from nature in a much better state mentally and physically, quite frankly, than when I went in there with. So definitely see how you can find yourself some adventure in some way. Maybe that means traveling right now if you feel up to it right now. I'm not going to be one to tell you no, you shouldn't, or no, you should, or whatever. I mean, you're an adult. You can make your own decisions. It's not for me to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. But I do suggest find some adventure in some way, shape, or form. And don't let the stressors that you may be experiencing following you. If you're on vacation from your job, don't check your work email. Deal with all that stuff when you get back. Vacation, adventure, that's your time. Use it to the fullest and use it for yourself. So, all right, everyone, that's the 5 tips that I have for you today. Just to recap before we go, number 1, intense physical training. Build yourself a better bathtub to get stronger so you can manage stress better. Limit media and social media usage and be deliberate, intentional to making sure you're only bringing in positive things versus negative things. Learn to say no so that way you're not taking on any additional stressors or biting off more than you can chew. Number 4 is to sleep. I think sleep can also go along with the analogy of building a bigger bathtub as well. If you get a good night's sleep, you'll be able to manage stressors a lot better during the day when you're well rested and focused. And number 5, find adventure. Get out there and, enjoy yourself, live life, and, get yourself away from all the stressors that you may experience in everyday life for a while. So, Hope you all enjoyed today's episode of the All Around Adventure podcast. If you did, make sure to subscribe wherever you might be listening to it. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I greatly would appreciate that. If you want to connect with other travelers like you, head over to facebook.com/groups/travel titans. That's our private Facebook group. And yeah, I just really appreciate you all, and hope you all go into 2021 in a good state. And I'll be back next Monday with a brand new episode featuring another fantastic guest, so be sure to check back in. But until then, I'm Josh Guerrero saying be safe, happy travels, and always move forward.